Classroom the Elite episode 5 just came out, and as a light novel reader, I was really interested in how they're going to handle the sports festival arc, because there were a lot of events that happened in the light novel that I felt like they were obviously going to do something with the pacing, with how long the games would last. There were some events that I could tell from the episode that were cut short, and then there were some that were pretty much given a briefly mention, but we'll get into that later. For right now, let's just head into what happened at the start of the episode. So the episode starts with how episode 4 ended, when Anakoji tells Horikita that Kushida is a traitor. Horikita is shocked and asks Anakoji why he believes that it's her, to which Anakoji responds saying that it's kind of strange that the information got leaked from the Earth group, even though it's very obvious that Horikita and Hirata wouldn't say who that VIP is, especially since of course it's from their class, to which Horikita agrees, and then she later on asks why Kushida would do this in the first place. Anakoji responds saying that there's a number of possibilities, but the one major one that he points out is that maybe she was given a big offer of points, to which Horikita is kind of confused as to why she would sell out the class just for more points. However, Anakoji is quick to point out that this is just theories, that there's no definitive answer, and the only person who knows that answer is Kushida herself. That's why he planned to hang out with her the next day so that they could see if she's willing to confess as to why she did it. After the opening of Classroom DLE, we then get the scene in which it's Horikita, Anakoji, and Kushida hanging out, seeing what the other class are doing and how they're training for the upcoming sports festival. Now, one interesting thing about this scene was the fact that they did kind of shorten the whole scene. There was actually a lot more happening in the light novel. In the light novel, there was actually a conversation that Kushida started having with one of the class Bs, in which it just comes to show just how big of a network Kushida has. It seems that she knows a lot of people and she has connections with a lot of people from different classes. Anyway, the thing that happened with Anakoji, Kushida, and Horikita is pretty much the same as the light novel. Horikita asks Kushida if she was the one who gave away that she was a VIP to someone. Kushida tries to deny it, although Horikita doesn't seem convinced and says that it's all in the past now, but she's worried that she won't be able to trust her in the near future. But Kushida says not to worry because she's also has her same goals as her, which is getting to class A. Now I find it funny how like Anakoji was like thinking about this whole conversation. He was like, he knew Horikita was going to be harsh about this, but he wasn't expecting it to be that harsh, and it's very obvious that she wasn't sugarcoating the question she asked to Kushida. And we fast forward to the next scene, which is supposed to be the day of the sports festival. It seems that everyone's ready and seems that everyone's going to be participating in the sports festival. Pseudo's giving words of encouragement, saying that everything's going to be fine, and as long as he keeps winning, everyone's going to be fine. Pretty much just showing us that he's really confident in his athletic skills. But also at the same time, as he's saying this, it's very obvious that who he's trying to get attention from, and which is Horikita, because he does stare at her for a while, pretty much hoping that she does pay attention to what he's saying, in which it shows it's not working because Horikita has no interest in what he has to say. While Pseudo is giving his speech and encouragement to the class, there's also another scene in which it shows Hirata and Anakoji having a conversation, in which they seem to be paying attention to the class A10, in which there's a student who's not going to be participating, which is Sakiyanagi Arisu. Sakiyanagi is having a conversation with Hashimoto, aka one of her goons, to see how the process is going with the sports festival. Hashimoto says how class D has a lot of average people when it comes to physical or athleticism, except for Pseudo, of course. But as they're having a conversation, Arisu turns around to see one person that she's particularly interested in, and I guess I don't need to explain who it is. It's obviously she's interested in Anakoji, and I'll just leave it at that for now. After which we get another scene in which is Koenji sitting out, pretty much showing us that he has no interest in participating to the event, even after Pseudo comes in and tells him why he's not participating, to which he just simply responds saying that he already told this to another person who also asked him to join the sports festival, in which he refused. Now Anakoji's hearing this and he believes that the person who told him this was Horikita, because Koenji does mention that it was a girl who asked him to participate in the sports festival. Hirata, trying to calm things down, tells Pseudo that he's a leader and he needs to show a good example, or else the team is going to crumble. Something that Pseudo, hates to admit, but it seems that he has no choice but just simply participate in the events, even if Koenji is not going to participate in anything. We then get our first sports festival game, which is all the boys from the first year. Obviously, is class A and D versus class B and C. Now, this game is very simple. Each team has to decide how to take down the other pole. There's going to be a defensive and offensive side. So defensive is going to protect the pole, while the offensive has to make sure to get to the other side and destroy the other poles of the enemy. And because of this, Pseudo is obviously on the offensive side, and he decides to charge in by himself with no support whatsoever. Something that in the light novels, because Anakoji doesn't say this in the anime, in the light novels, Anakoji says how that was something really stupid to do because he just exposed himself to a bunch of people from the enemy side, and now everyone's just going to go after him because, well, he's all alone by himself. This event went pretty fast because in the light novel, there was a lot of more conversations that Anakoji was having in his mind, which he was simply talking about how the tactics are and what are the team's tactics and his opinion opinion overall on the tactics that they were using. Unfortunately, Class A and Class D lost that one, and Class B and C won. However, one thing that was very obvious was that Ryuuen was obviously using dirty tactics when in this game. It was very clear that he was targeting Pseudo and making sure that he was down regardless if what he was doing was breaking the rules. After Class A's and Class D's defeat, they noticed there has been some sort of accident involving the girls event, in which it seems that Horikita and one girl from Class C suffer some kind of accident, and as a result, Horikita's leg becomes injured. Now what's really interesting is that this was just the aftermath of this. There was actually more details in the light novel in which Horikita explains how it was very clear that something was going on with the Class C girl, because it seems that the Class C girl was going closer to her, which as a result, it seems that both of them got severely hurt. Really wish they did just show us the events that happened before the collision, because it's very obvious that it seems that this was all planned out. So another thing I forgot to mention was that there's supposed to be a first race between Horikita and Ibuki. I'm not sure why they cut it. Maybe they'll show it in the next episode, but who really knows? I highly doubt it, because they're already showing Horikita injured with her leg, because that race happened before she got her injury. So yeah, it seems that they did also cut out a relay race that was supposed to be between Ibuki and Horikita, which would have shown just how serious Ibuki is in taking down Horikita because of the whole thing that happened in the island exam, pretty much showing that Ibuki sees Horikita as a rival. Next scene is just Horikita sitting on a bench, in which obviously her leg is injured. However, Horikita denies it, saying that it's not a big deal and that she's going to continue participating in the event, something that Anakoji highly doubts that she could do, because when he touches her leg, she is very clearly in pain. And it seems that she was serious, because the next scene is just the girls having their contest, in which is the piggyback joust. Now it's very obvious, because Class D notices very quickly that Horikita is the main target. It seems that the girls from the enemy team are focusing solely on Horikita, and as a result, Horikita's team loses. After which, then is the boys' turn to do the piggyback joust, and it seems that the Class D was actually having a good start. But unfortunately, once they were going against Ryuuen's group, that's when everything started falling apart. Now, one thing that the anime didn't say was how there was actually a moment in which Pseudo and his team actually managed to almost grab Ryuuen's bandana. However, it became very obvious that there was something holding his bandana to his head, like gel, which of course pissed Pseudo off, because it was very obvious that Ryuuen was doing dirty tricks once again. However, for some reason that wasn't included, so it just seemed like they just lost just like that, which is unfortunate, because it would have shown us just how much Ryuuen was willing to do in order to win, even if it's just cheating or using dirty tricks like that. The next thing is a conversation between Anakoji and Kei, to which the thing that Anakoji was mostly surprised about in this conversation was the fact that Kei called him by his first name, which is Kiyotaka. When Anakoji says why she called him by his first name, she said that she called that to Hirata as well. But it's not the only thing that was interesting about the conversation. Kei asked Anakoji was that what is he planning to do in the sports festival? Are they actually planning on winning? Which Anakoji responds by saying no, the entire plan was not to win at all. It was actually the opposite, to which Kei is confused as to what his plan was all about, in which Anakoji explains how the losses were on purpose. The reason why this happened was because the trader, actually leaked the information about Class D, in which of course led to them losing a bunch of games, because whoever had the information about Class D's lineup made sure that their lineup was even better so that they could take down Class D. Also, the second reason as to why they lost on purpose was because Anakoji wanted the people that clearly were not changing whatsoever how they were going on with their tactics, which is primarily Horikita, and he wants to change not just their personality but also how they view things overall. It seems that the losses are really starting to take effect on Pseudo, because he starts really going angry. He starts to do things like kick the trash can, showing just how mad he is that Ryuuen is getting away with cheating and how Class D is just not winning at all. Pseudo is so mad to the point where he wants to beat up Ryuuen, something that Hirata does not want that to happen, because it's not just going to affect Pseudo, it's also going to affect the class. However, Pseudo's not listening whatsoever, and he tells Hirata not to tell him what to do, because he's been so far the only one that's been actually doing things in the sports festival, in which Yukimura decides to intervene, saying that the only reason why he's doing that is because he just wants to hoggle the spotlight, something that Pseudo does not appreciate Yukimura saying to him, because now he wants to beat up Yukimura, and of course Hirata's not having it, and it's at this point that Pseudo's just tired of Hirata, so he decides to punch Hirata in front of everyone. Chawashia steps in saying what's going on and is there something going on, to which Hirata just simply says that he just tripped and fell to avoid any other problems. However, this doesn't stop Pseudo from still still being mad, and as a result he decides to quit, saying that Class D should just do things on their own and that he's not going to do anything else in the sports festival and that he doesn't care if they lose. While all this is happening, Anakoji is just simply staring as if he was expecting all this to happen and decides to talk to Horikita once again. After Horikita sees Anakoji approaching her, she knows that Anakoji is going to ask for her to bring back Pseudo, which Anakoji says yes, that's the case, but it seems that Horikita has no intentions of doing that because she doesn't really want to help other people. It's at which at this point Anakoji has had enough of her attitude and how she views things and tells Horikita to stop being useless, something that Horikita is surprised and not happy with what Anakoji just told her. But Anakoji keeps going on saying how she needs to actually start working with other people and not just by herself because there's only so much she could do by herself, and that how Horikita as of right now is completely useless. However, she seems to have one person that she could use in the near future. When Horikita asks who it is, Anakoji says that it's Pseudo. Horikita is confused at first as to what he means, but it's very obvious to Anakoji that Pseudo can play an important role later on in the future, and that is somebody that Horikita needs to have on her side in order to do things in the near future. After this conversation with Anakoji, Horikita decides to look for Pseudo and get him to join the sports festival again and participate because they really do need him. However, while all this is happening, Hirata, Anakoji, and Kei are having lunch, to which Kei really wants Anakoji to just tell her who the traitor is, to which Anakoji says no. And then Hirata joins in, telling Anakoji that why did he submit the lineup for Class D if he knew there was going to be a traitor that will leak the information to another class, to which Anakoji says he has no idea why he did it. He was just listening to Horikita's orders, pretty much just telling to Hirata that this is all Horikita's strategy and he was just doing what she told him to do. Now back to Horikita looking for Pseudo. She is looking for Pseudo around the school, but while she is looking for him, Kushida calls her name, saying to Horikita that this is something important they need to talk about in regards of the Class C girl that she had an accident with, and that her injury is really bad and it does seem that it's not looking good. Horikita decides to check this for herself, in which in the infirmary she sees not just the Class C girl but also sees Ryuuen next to her side. Now one interesting detail that they left out was the fact that in this scene Chabashira, the Class D homeroom teacher, was supposed to be here to witness what was going on, but for some reason she's not in this scene, which I don't know why. But anyway, in this scene Ryuuen tells Horikita that she is going to tell this to the school and reported that this was clearly something that she did on purpose. Of course, Horikita is not happy that Ryuuen is going to go to the school to accuse her of something that she didn't do on purpose and it was very likely an accident. However, Ryuuen says that that's what the Class C girl told him, is that Horikita did this all on purpose and because she did not want Class C to win, something that Horikita said that never happened and she never told her that to begin with. This causes Ryuuen to make a proposal to Horikita, saying that he will not report this incident to the school if Horikita pays him 1 million points in return, something that Horikita outright doesn't want to do because, well, first of all, she probably doesn't even have that amount of points to begin with, and second of all, this is obviously one of Ryuen's traps in order for her to give points so that the school doesn't find out about this incident. But it seems that Ryuen has a different proposal now that Horikita has outright refused the first offer, in which it's not just only about the points anymore. In fact, he wants Horikita to grovel, which in definition it just means somebody lie or crawl ejectedly on the ground with one's face downward. So basically he wants Horikita to be on her knees. Horikita doesn't want to do this, but Ryuen tells her that the decision is not yet finalized. In fact, he's going to give her time to think about this decision. After which Horikita is out of the infirmary room and going back to the outside, probably to look for a Pseudo once again. But just as he's about to walk outside, she notices somebody that she's familiar with, aka Manabu. Manabu notices Horikita but quickly decides to ignore her, pretty much just showing how bad the relationship is between brother and sister. But in this time, Horikita decides to talk to her brother, albeit he's not really looking at her, he's facing the other way. But it doesn't stop Horikita from talking to her brother, in which she says that yeah, she is obviously in the wrong and she obviously needs to start changing because the way she's doing things is not the correct way. Manabu doesn't say anything and is just listening, pretty much just showing us that he is willing to listen to her, but that doesn't mean that he is going to talk to her. After Horikita tells her brother the things she wanted to say, she heads on outside, pretty much going back to what she was doing, looking for Pseudo, and it's at this point is at which the episode ends. So overall, I think this episode was fine. I know a lot of people are going to say how they did have to cut a few things from the events because obviously some of the events went way longer in the light novel than in the anime, and it's obviously, like I said, the cut content like the Ibuki and Horikita race was cut for some reason, which is really unfortunate, but of course it's very obvious that they were focusing on the pacing, just getting straight to the points that are important in the sports festival arc, so it is what it is. But overall, I still enjoyed the episode and I can't wait to see what happens next in episode 6. So until then, hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you next time.